the YouTube going as well.
Clean glasses will help.
Mhm. Yeah, this is Eugenia.
Hey, David.
There's Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
All right.
Hey, David, can you hear us all right? Oh, I think he's coming in on another name. Let's see.
There's Bill.
Hey,
Hey, Bill.
got a suit jacket and a suit and tie. Here I am in a hoodie sweatshirt. Bringing the whole group
All
down.
right, Bill.
There's David.
Hello.
Hey, David. All right. Now we have Sharon. How you doing? Here for minutes?
Right.
All right, great. Well, we have a quorum, John, whenever you're ready.
There's the other David Westmoreland on here.
Yeah, David, can I get rid of that or do you need that for audio? Oh, he's frozen.
I'm going to turn off the video for me because it makes my call more stable and I'm less likely to lose the call. So it'll say admin.
Okay,
Just me.
well, I will call the meeting to order. I see we have all the commissioners here. There's Kelly, Bill, Lisa, and David. Well, good evening all. Do we have anyone that wants to, in public, wants to make any comments? Brian?
Do not see anyone in the waiting room
Okay.
or in the session.
I don't know whether on the council, we would have to, at this point, suspend the rules to add something to the agenda. So I'll make a motion to suspend the rules to add the Washington Plaza Design Services to new business, and we will consider and take possible action as to the agency agenda. I'm sorry. So that's the motion. All in favor?
Sorry, I'm confused. What is this motion for?
We're adding to the new business, the Washington Plaza Design Services, to consider and take possible action.
There's a contract that came in afterwards for new business.
Okay.
Got it. Sorry,
Everyone-
thank you. I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Hi.
I think it's unanimous. Then we could go on to our regular businesses. Number one is administration, the approval of the minutes. We have two here. Approve the minutes of the December 8th, 2020 regular meeting. Does anyone have any comments, changes, additions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the December 8th, 2020 meeting minutes. All in favor?
You need a second.
I will second the motion.
Keep forgetting that, Mark.
I got you.
All in favor?
Sorry, who seconded it?
William Spears?
Thank
Bill
you.
Spears. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I abstain.
Okay, one abstention.
Mhm.
And 2 is to approve the minutes of the January 5th, 2021 special meeting. Does anyone have any changes, additions, deletions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 5th, 2021 special meeting. Do I have a
So
second?
move. Oh, second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Looks unanimous again. And we'll go on to finances. To approve the redevelopment agency's statement of revenues and expenditures for operating fund 100 for year to date December 31st, 2020. Who's going to present those?
Yes, I will. And for Fund 100, the operating fund for the 6 months ending December 31st, 2020, this fund had actual revenues of $786,000 versus a year-to-date budget of $794,000, which resulted in an unfavorable variance of $8,000. Total actual expenditures of $784,000 versus a budget of $810,000 resulted in a favorable variance of $26,000. This is primarily due to an unfavorable variance in legal expenses of $79,000 for Wall Street litigation, which was offset by a favorable variance in personnel costs of $86,000 and other administrative expenses of $19,000. There's an actual operating surplus of $2,000 versus a budgeted deficit of $16,000, which includes a favorable operating which results in a favorable operating variance of $18,000. Then going to the balance sheet for Fund 100, at December 31st, 2020, there's $5,513,000 in cash, accounts receivable, and property, and $1,013,000 in net loans receivable and other assets. There's $1,454,000 in deferred revenues, which will be earned when expended, and $3,510,000 in net assets. The financial statements for the other funds are also included in the package. There are no major variances, except if you look at Fund 300, the CDBG non-revolving loan fund. There is an operating deficit of $381,000, but this has been drawn down and we've been reimbursed for these expenses, so everything's fine. Does anybody have any questions?
Seeing none, there's a motion to approve those. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, it seems unanimous. Then we'll go on to business. The first item is the Urban Core Landscaping and Maintenance Service. And we're to approve the contract with Meticulous Landscaping through June 30th, 2021, not to exceed $40,000. Brian, would you like to bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, no problem. So as many of you are aware, we've had a 3-year contract with Meticulous Landscaping to provide landscaping services throughout the urban core. The full contract has already been approved by this board. The requirement was that each year we would come back for an authorization of the funds as available. We've been working with the city, specifically the Office of Economic and Community Development and Jessica Casey, recognizing the city's the recent reorganization and the creation of the neighborhood beautification team. And also during our strategic plan, we had discussions in terms of, some of these maintenance activities that may make more sense to reside at the city. So we've actually been working with them to transfer this contract over. We would, and what is before you tonight is actually just paying for that contract through June 30th. The contract actually expires on the calendar year, so it won't be expired until next January. But the city will take it over as part of the capital budget for next year. So effectively what we're doing is we're just paying for 35% of the total contract amount, which is about $40,000 for the 6-month period.
Any questions? Comments? None. Seeing none, I move to approve the contract with Meticulous Landscaping through June 30th, 2021, not to exceed $40,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Spears, all in favor? Aye.
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 Sounds unanimous. Moving on to item number 2, Matthews Park Design Services. Motion to approve contract with Heritage Landscapes not to exceed $27,500 with $10,000 of the funds provided by the Norwalk Historic Commission. Hey,
Great.
Brian?
Yep. So in terms of this item, this is actually a follow-up to the informational discussion we had regarding the development of a master plan for Matthews Park a couple months back. We've gone through the procurement process involving a number of stakeholders within the park, including David Westmoreland and John Hopkins from our office. The group has selected Heritage Landscapes to provide the work. The contract amount, we're looking for $27,500 as approval. The contract amount is about $25,000. The remainder would be a small contingency for work as needed. And as we discussed in the last item on this matter, $10,000 of the funds would be provided by the Norwalk Historic Commission.
Okay. Any questions? It's going to be a nice evening. There's a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. We'll move on to 3, South Norwalk Train Station TOD study. Motion is to approve contract with VHB for the COVID-19 market response planning services not to exceed $25,000. Brian?
Great. So as you're aware, we're in the middle of a South Norwalk TOD, South Norwalk train station area study, taking a look at the highest and best use potential of the area. During the sort of our initial outreach phase, when we've met with various stakeholders in the area and listening to their feedback, we've identified an opportunity to expand upon the scope a little bit, really taking a closer look and developing more data sets to examine the impacts that COVID-19 have had on the overall market in the area, both from taking a look at the retail aspects of the pandemic and how it's affected our overall vacancy and sort of the strength of the retail market. Also looking at the social equity piece of this whole equation, making sure that we take a real hard look at the economic impacts that the pandemic has had on communities all around the South Norwalk train station and the neighborhoods. And then also taking a look at the development potential, adjacent developments, and how market demand may have shifted as a result of COVID and what we could expect for the future. So really, it's the additional funds would be used to expand upon the existing conditions analysis so that we're going into a lot of our public outreach meetings with additional information that we could use, obviously, to respond to COVID, but also plan for the future.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I've made the motion. Do I have a second? Have a second? David, all in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. Go on to item number 4, the design review, 637 West Avenue. Brian, I think you have some
Great.
people that want to talk about this.
Yeah, so we're joined today by the applicant, who's represented by Redness and Mead, who will give a brief presentation of the project, and our third-party design review consultants with Andreopolis, who will respond. So I'd invite the applicant to provide just a brief overview to the board in terms of the actual project that's up for consideration.
Yeah, good evening. Vince Hines with Redness and Mead, a civil engineering firm in Stanford and Wilton. Also here tonight, we have our project architect and the owner. Not sure if the landscape architect is on just yet. He had another meeting he had to attend as well. So let me see if I can screen share here. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
So just a quick overview. The parcel is located at 637 West Avenue, which is at the intersection of West Ave to the west and Chapel Street to the north, with a mix of uses to the south and to the east. The site features a parking lot, a drive-through, and a two-story brick building that has historically been comprised of medical office and bank tenants. The existing structure is got a brick facade and features this Greek revival front entry, which was kind of a common feature of bank buildings during the 20th century. The project proposal includes a revised tenant fit-up, which would consist of about 90% medical office and 10% bank, and aesthetic building modifications, shown here in elevation view. To paraphrase Bruce Beinfield, whom had provided the original design direction, the aesthetic design changes were prepared with the intent of kind of rebranding the building to reflect the 21st century image of potential medical tenants. The design presents a fresh image to the street via the enclosed front entryway and the new fresh window treatments, but it maintains the building's overall substance and prominence in the area, especially considering you also have the church right across the street, another prominent building there, while also being able to kind of drastically increase the transparency of the building facade as recommended by the redevelopment guidelines for West Ave. With that, like Brian mentioned, the peer reviewer Andropoulos Design Associates had specific suggestions that we had responded to last Friday afternoon, and I thought I'd have the project architect address those comments.
Objective 3 1. All right, so the some of the comments that we received from ADA was so the rooftop screen that we had proposed had been reduced in height to match the height of the existing doghouse, which is shown here. We've got full-panel screen. We've detailed the dimensions of the front glass cube, as well as provided a sample, which is, if you can see, Mike Sorreo is in possession of it right now, which basically details the walls and the glass cube and the windows. What was that?
Color screen.
And we have two samples for the HVAC screen as well. It's a slate gray or a black is what we're proposing. We're kind of recommending going with the gray.
Yeah, and I think that's just to not be too
Too overwhelming.
yeah, exactly.
With the big black.
And then Kyle, as Eric's not on, could you just speak to the cornice lighting that we're proposing currently?
Yeah, of course. The landscape plan shows total perimeter cornice up lighting to kind of highlight that facade, the particular facade feature. So it's a,
Yeah, so that's this cornice facade lighting here. And as Kyle mentioned, we're proposing that as an item along the upper cornice around the perimeter of the building. So that's called for on our landscape plans and further kind of oriented here on the building facade. And with that, I think we've addressed the comments that we've received to date. And as we move towards a zoning approval, we also have, as the design is along West Avenue and located within the West Ave redevelopment plan area, these aesthetic modifications require the redevelopment agency approval prior to any zoning approval. And we're here if you have any questions or comments.
And I believe Bill Andriopoulos has joined too. I know that there was some back and forth over the last couple of days in terms of, addressing the comments as was just described. So Bill, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to report on or any outstanding items for the board to consider.
Hi, yes, thank you for the introduction. I'm here, Maria Genovese, project manager, is also with me from Andriopoulos Design Associates. Yeah, pretty much, I've gone over the letter stated, February 3rd from Pistola and Associates and from Eric Rains. I'm fine with the lighting, the uplight, and the additional detail for how that light fixture is going to function. And then there's also the comment about it may or may not be installed, and I'd like to have an understanding that if it doesn't get installed, that once they get underway in construction and need to do it at a later date, they could have that latitude. We just would like notice, when that installation would take place, and to be copied in on any of the correspondence regarding the fixture, if there's any changes in the lighting fixture or anything like that. I'm also aware that I don't know if you went over this already, but there's some possible site lighting changes to decrease the number of fixtures, but maintain the light levels. If there's going to be a new photo geometry on that, we'd like to get a copy of that as well. We should get a copy of that as well, so that we have it for the record and to be able to get a glance over that. In terms of the comments on the Pistola list, yeah, everything, I've gone through them all today. The information that I received on Friday evening, the 5th, I went over that today with Maria. And basically, all of the comments have been responded to and addressed. The height of the wall, the privacy screen that we have for the equipment. Now I know why the wall is so high, because I've gotten the dimensions of the equipment being added, and that rooftop unit number 1 is a pretty large piece of equipment. And but I'm glad that even lowering it to the height that we have lowered it to will hide that. I wish we could even lower this screen a little bit more. I think we got about 4 or 5 inches to play with, but at this level, I don't think 4 or 5 inches will make much difference in the height. There was one additional comment that I had made in my report to the redevelopment agency, stating that we felt the design and the presentation and the improvements that you're making to the building are in compliance with the regulations. But there was still some concern that possibly on the west elevation of the front of the building, if we could bring that fence in a little bit more from the left and the right. I know there's a lot of flexibility on the right And I see why you made it as long as you did, because it kind of has some symmetry about the front of the building. And I can appreciate that. And that's why I'm asking if we could bring it in a little bit more. I was asking for 6 feet on each side to bring it in, just to diminish the mass, the enormity of the length, you know. So I realize there's some equipment. There looks to be some fan units that may be limiting us on the left-hand side. In the back, right now, there's about 6 feet, almost 7 feet distance between those fan units and the left-hand side of this wall. I don't know if the manufacturer would allow you to put that fence, or if you could put that fence up against that unit. So that being said, if we could get even 3 feet on each side to come in and shorten the overall length, it shouldn't affect any of the dunnage steel or any of that configuration. It may just require a rebracing of the corner from the way it's being braced now, you know, which we don't see in these diagrams, but that's about the only out. And then again, the color, we haven't seen a color sample on this panel yet. We were told it was gray. We would like to see the paint color. I did get an image late this afternoon.
Yeah, we have a physical sample here that we can send you.
Okay. And we could look at that. There was an image sent over us tonight of a similar panel used on another building elsewhere. It looks like it's a corrugated metal. We're fine with that. The color in that picture is a very light gray, and we like that color, light gray. I don't know if you guys are thinking more a darker color. I don't know where I got the inclination that it might be a darker gray that you were looking to use. And maybe that has to do with because we're using black frame.
Yeah, we were looking to use a darker gray.
Yeah.
If a lighter gray is preferred, then we can do that. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we could get a copy, you know, a piece of the, you know, it should be easy enough to get a paint chip on that color, so we could look at it. And then so that takes care of pretty much. I still haven't seen. I'm unclear as to what we're seeing. You know, when we look at the glass enclosure, the entry vestibule. I saw the images that you sent over of the iPark vestibule, and
I think we lost him.
We lose Bill. Okay, well, there was a number of comments that I know Bill had provided, and you are in receipt of them. Is that correct?
Yeah, and most of them were suggestions, kind of in response to his first letter. I think staff had asked him to provide that letter again in a kind of a suggestion format. So he just reiterated some of the same comments that I think we just didn't get a chance to get the responses to him until Friday after he had issued this memo. So like he was indicating, we've addressed mostly everything. We can certainly get him the paint sample for the fencing up around the mechanical equipment, and then we can certainly look at if there's any more leeway in terms of how much offset we need to have that fencing from the equipment. We can certainly look at reducing that, both like he was saying on the left side and the right side of the west elevation. I know he mentioned 6 feet on either side. If that brings us right up to the edge of the equipment, we might not be able to get that, but we'll look into that with the Pistola team and the owner.
Okay. All right, great. So I think what I would suggest then is that, and John Hopkins, I believe you're on the call as well, but you know, we're reviewing this within the context of the design guidelines, and from what we've gathered, it's in substantial conformance with that, pending some minor comments to be addressed. So I would suggest to the board's consideration of approval of this pending final resolution of the comments as described.
So Brian, I have comments,
Right.
if that's all right.
Yeah.
So the landscape plan, the site plan, removal of the drive-through window, all that looks good to me. But I do think that the proposal for the facade is a pretty shocking change. To me, the portico and the massive columns, creates a really strong dialogue with the architecture of St. Mary's Church next door, and is certainly a strong statement building on the street on West Avenue. When I think of West Avenue, I think of this building and I think of the church. And while the new design is not, it's not horrible, but it's sort of generic office box with red brick. And I just don't know why, we would sort of dumb down the street with this. Like I said, it's not offensive at all. It's pretty bland. But, this is a strong statement that the portico and the columns make. It's a really shocking change. I'm kind of surprised to see it. I just really don't like it at all over what's there now. I mean, this would be fine if this was a new proposal or something else, but I think it's going to be a real downgrade for the street, removing a really significant architectural feature on the street. And I don't see, at least of the plans that were shown, it didn't even look like the transparency went through the building. It looks like just a glass box on the outside. And it seems to me you could just, add more glass, on the front facade, behind the columns, and to create, more light. But it doesn't look like it's going into the building anyway. I really don't like it. I also think that it's such a dramatic change. We might want to consider as a commission tabling this until next month and allowing for more public comment, because I don't think anybody knows about this. And this is going to be a big change to the street.
Can we go back to the existing columns to look at that? Well, I see what you're saying, David, but
there's another view in the package of it shows the building with St. Mary's next to it. That's really a good view to look at because it puts it in context.
If I can find that.
Yeah, that's it. So you're going to go from that to just a big red brick box. Whereas here, your eye is drawn to the massive columns and the portico, which, is a strong counterbalance a bit to the church.
well, I see what you're saying, David. And I use this as a landmark when I'm driving sometimes. But it is, in my opinion, quite dated. And I thought the upgrade might be improved upon, but I like the point you made about giving time for more public comment. So I could go with that. I don't know how everyone else feels.
I mean, I think you could take the giant Wells Fargo sign down and do better signage and do some landscaping. And, you know, the front facade would look very nice and look updated. It's just, there's no landscaping and there's just a giant red Wells Fargo sign across the front of the building. So, I mean, I think a lot could be done with it as it is.
Yeah, I would say maybe Mike Sorreo with the ownership team might want to speak to this. I know there might be other considerations for us in terms of a potential in delay. And obviously we want to work with you guys to get this right, but we feel like we're there also as a design team. Mike, we can't hear you.
Hello. All right.
Well, I'm happy to make a motion to table this to the next regular meeting if there's a second.
Can we go back to the proposed picture of the new front? You don't have a view from that a little further back from the street, do we? No.
No, for this rendering, we don't have another rendering at a different angle.
Okay. Have we had any public comment or none?
We have not received anything to date.
Well, again, I don't think anyone knows about it. I mean, you know.
Well, will delaying it 1 month create any issues?
Mike's having difficulty getting through with his sound, but
I see a head shaking, but I don't hear any.
yeah, he's. I know he's been working very diligently trying to get this, get everything in order for the tenant, the tenants that he's talking to try to move this forward as soon as we can.
Mike, maybe you can add a couple of things in the chat.
Sure. Can you guys hear me now? I just switched something.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Yes. Hi, everyone. Mike Sorreo with Seligson Properties with the property ownership team here. Yeah, so thanks very much for your review and consideration of this and your comments thus far. Again, yeah, just to speak to what we were looking to accomplish here with this design and the change is to, as Vincent stated earlier on in the meeting, was really just trying to maintain the existing character and prominence of the building here on West Avenue, while at the same time really trying to modernize it for uses other than when this used to be a 25,000-foot bank, you know, single tenant, single occupant bank branch, which it hasn't been for a long time. So in response to market office leasing factors, et cetera, to try to make this building, to modernize it and make it attractive to potential tenants and medical tenants, we had come up with this design that, again, tries to maintain some of that character while also providing some new and more modern flair to the front of the building.
Okay.
I mean, I appreciate the goal. I just don't think that removing the most significant architectural features, you know, reaches the goal of maintaining the existing character of the building. This is a nice design. I don't, you know, like I said, I don't hate this. It's coming from where we are. To me, it's a step backwards. If this were a new building that were being built somewhere, you know, else, that would be fine. It's attractive. enough, but it's a substantial change. And to me, it's a downgrade of the existing architectural character that exists.
Hey, Bill, can you hear us? Are you back? Bill Andriopoulos? Can you hear us, Bill?
Yes, sorry
Yeah, sorry.
about that, folks.
It kicked us out.
It's okay. Just catching you up, there's just been a discussion regarding the removal of the existing portico and some of the comments from our board. And David, I don't know if you wanted to surprise Bill just to catch him up with some of your concerns.
So I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, and I don't mean to. I feel like, Bill, the portico and the columns are very strong visual statement that is very visible far down the street. The portico and columns also kind of counterbalance St. Mary's Church across the street. There's a dialogue between them. This is an attractive design. I don't want to, come off like I don't like it. It's nice, but to me, you're removing the most significant architectural feature of the building, and it thus becomes just a red brick box with some glass. I don't see this as an improvement. I see it as a pretty shocking downgrade, and I think the public is going to be very surprised because it is a landmark building.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of the history of the building and its past as an institutional building, being the bank that it was. I mean, I remember going there probably 45, 50 years ago when I was just a teenager, and it was a big, marvelous bank, no question about it. But part of the plan here in the change of use which has evolved in that 50 some odd years, whereas now banks have gotten smaller, and medical has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and more in demand. Their plan calls for another entry to be put in the front, and that's to allow them to separate it to two separate uses: the bank on one side and the medical on the other side. And both uses now have to have two means of egress, whereas formerly this was the front door, and in the back was the back door for the bank. They had two means of egress. So now they got two tenants. So now they need two more doors, and that's what they're providing. And that secondary door, if it were to be installed under the existing, portico, open portico, would throw off would throw off pretty well. I don't know that it would even fit in the original, leaving the columns and the portico open. So I think that's one of the reasons I kind of, sympathetic to their need to provide that additional egress, and then they're very cleverly, disguising its unsymmetrical nature, because we don't really see it here. Here we still see a symmetrical facade, and when you get inside, you can go left to the bank and right to the doctor's office or something to that effect. So, but I agree that it'll be a loss to that building. But again, this is in keeping with the rest of the fenestration that they're managing or re-imaging to change this look of this building.
Hi, Bill, just wanted to bring this up since you were talking about it. We got the enclosure and then the two doors that you were just discussing.
Correct. That door on the right is a new door. And the door on the left, I'm assuming, is in the same exact location, which is in the middle and in between two very large, columns right now. And it's got a nice, huge entablature around it. So the framework around, yeah, there you go. So now let's put another door next to it on the right. It would end up actually getting jammed in between that column and that existing door, if they could even fit it. So I think that's part of the part of the issue.
Well, I mean, not to design the building, but you could remove all of the brick, leave the, did you call it entablature? I call it the pediment around the door
Yeah, the
surround.
pediment, right. Mhm.
You could do all that back wall as glass, leave the pediment, have the glass doors wherever there on the side. I think that would add transparency and open it up. I think there's solutions beyond ripping off the main architectural feature of the building to do that. My mind goes to Old City Hall in South Norwalk, where the museum was for a while. When the museum moved out, the owner of that building did a renovation. You can't tell anything from the outside. But inside, there's like 7 or 8 very different businesses. It's like this thriving ecosystem of social marketing, graphics design, architecture firms, I think even a hedge fund, and just did an amazing job turning a single purpose municipal building into a multi-tenanted, multi-purpose Class A office space. And I don't know why, it'd be a requirement to remove the architectural feature to accomplish that. It seems like there's just some other way.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Westmoreland to table. So that's something that will have to be considered either on a second or being withdrawn and proceeding to another vote.
Okay. The design has to go to zoning. Do you have a date for zoning, or is it going to be scheduled?
This is actually submitted under the zoning permit application process, and as of right now, the way that's not a public hearing process because it's just a change in use on their end, and then as far as the site plan goes, we modified the parking lot to accommodate the requirement in parking for that change in use. So there's not a public hearing, and as of right now, they're awaiting feedback from both redevelopment and DPW. And DPW we're expecting by the end of the week.
Okay.
So there's not going to really be any public input.
Yeah.
I mean, if we delay to the next meeting, I would ask, the architectural knowledgeable people that I know to take a look at it and speak on it, whichever way they, this is just my opinion. It may be that everybody says, yeah, it's the best thing since sliced bread, but I don't think that will be the case.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to there's a motion to table this until the next meeting. I think we need a second. Do I have a second? Okay, I will second the tabling. So I'd like to see more public input. That's my only concern. I don't object to the new design as much, but without any public input, I think it would be a shock to the community, as David mentioned. So I'm seconding it. I put it to the vote. All in favor of tabling?
I think Michael has a question or comment.
Well, that would probably be not appropriate given that the commissioners are now in the middle of discussion on a pending motion to table by Commissioner Westmoreland and seconded by the chair, Mr. Igneri.
Sorry, I didn't know if the discussion was open to people outside of just commissioners.
Oh, just you commissioners now at this point in time. There is a call for the vote on the motion to table by Commissioner Igneri.
Well, can I show of hands? All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Was that you, Bill? So it sounds like it was unanimous tabling. Am
I agree,
correct?
I agree, Mr. Chairman. It was unanimous by all 5 commissioners to table to the next agency meeting.
Okay. So tabled. And David, you will take care of getting more publicity around this, right?
Yes.
Okay. I guess that's the end of our discussion here on this. We'll go to executive session. I think that's it, correct?
Yeah, well, we have
Oh, no. We added item 5. I take that back. So now we have,
I just want to say thanks, everybody, for listening in.
thank you.
Yes, we'll drop off now. Thanks very much for your consideration. Look forward to following up with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Now, Mark, would it be amenable to take the new business before we go into executive session just for Zoom purposes?
I was going to say that, Brian, under the facts and circumstances, and given that at the beginning of the meeting, there was a motion to suspend to add the new business, that it'd be appropriate to have that now so that anyone would like to listen in before we go into executive session, because that is the last item on the agency agenda this evening.
Sorry. Item 5 on the agenda, the business agenda, is to, well, I'll move that we add Washington Plaza Design Services for consideration and possible action. So, do I have a second? Oh, no, we're not voting yet. We're opening it up.
Yeah, no problem. I can just give a brief overview of this project. It's already been added to the agenda, as I recall, so we should be good there. So we've been working with the city on the utilization of some additional program income for the CDBG program to identify a project that could be designed and built before the end of May here, which is a key timeliness test for HUD. What we've all agreed upon between us and the city is to take a look at 50 Washington Plaza based on feedback received to date on its recent opening and construction. To provide some additional furnishings in the park. This would involve design, and that's what's up for your consideration today, is engaging the former design consultant, Eric Rain's Landscape Architecture, to help us scope and order and develop construction drawings for the installation of benches and various amenities and furnishings to create a larger sense of place over at the park. Obviously, being sensitive to some of the security concerns we'll be working through that were identified in the initial design phase of the park, and then trying to design something that works for the whole community in that regard. So the amount that we would be authorizing is $6,700, and that's to be funded out of CDBG resources for the design and then the ultimate construction of any furnishings.
Any discussion? Any questions?
The 6,700 is for the design and construction?
No, that's just for the design.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Seeing no questions, do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Looks unanimous again. Finishing the business section of this, we'll go into executive session.
Hold on,
Before we
Mr.
do,
Chair.
can I just sneak into new business? I was going to wait till the end, but if we're doing new business now.
No problem, Bill.
Okay. I just want to let everyone know that tonight's going to be my last meeting as a commissioner on the redevelopment agency. I contacted the mayor on Monday. I have moved out of the city of Norwalk. My wife and I and son now have moved out of the city of Norwalk, so I think it would be disingenuous to continue sitting on this committee. I still own property there, so I technically could, but my interests aren't necessarily as aligned as they previously were with the citizens of Norwalk. So it was a pleasure serving with all of you on this committee, and certainly meeting all of you and sort of seeing how the sausage is made, which was excellent. So thank you very much for everything and the opportunity, as I echoed to the mayor. So I wanted to slide that in there before we moved on to executive session.
Well, I've worked with you a short time, but I've enjoyed it. I'm sorry to see you go.
Thank you.
Hopefully you won't tell everyone where you live now how bad the sausage making is in Norwalk. They probably all know it anyway.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
With that, we can go into executive session and have a discussion regarding agency legal services.
So I'm going to end the broadcasting now, and